Theory is a system of naming things that already exist. It helps us take phenomena and abstract them using symbols so that we can understand relationships and communicate information. My suspicion is that musicians who don't know theory have their own systems. They have names for melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic information that they've invented or learned by osmosis. So while it might not be standardized, they still have their own system of names and symbols. These people also tend to have learned by listening to records and imitating what they hear, which is how we learn spoken language. I still don't know what a preposition is, but I've learned from reading and speaking and writing how to use English. It's the same with music. You ultimately learn by doing. Even when you do learn a theoretical concept, it's useless until you build an experiential relationship with it as a sound and a physical position, etc. The thing that makes theory useful is it's very systematic. The amount of possibilities in music is vast. Learning theory formally is extremely helpful because it breaks the massive quantity of possibilities into discrete categories that can then be considered one by one. When you systematically work through them, you encounter sounds and techniques that appeal to your taste. Those become part of your playing through practice. Preferences build your vocabulary, and your vocabulary becomes your unique voice. Just learning theory alone is not going to make you a great player. What makes you a great player is experience. Learning by experimentation what notes have more or less tension over a particular chord, how chords typically proceed to create expectations that are either satisfied or denied. So the danger is that if you're stuck in abstractions, you'll be doing too much math and thinking and playing with your head and not your heart. But that's not a good reason to avoid theory altogether. Theory just helps show you what's out there. You still have to take the next step of taking the sounds you discovered through theory and experimenting with them on your instrument till you find what you like, then practicing so that you can access the sound without thinking. What theory can't do is tell you how to put all those sounds together to make good music, really. You have to discover that on your own. What it can do is expose you to sounds and relationships that you might not otherwise have discovered. Thinking is for the classroom and the practice room. On the bandstand, thinking takes a backseat. It's a helpful tool to keep our place, to make choices, and to communicate information quickly to other people who have learned a similar system. But when we're really playing well, intuition is in the driver's seat, not intellect. Many people have pointed to famous musicians who never learned theory. To that I say, as long a list as you can make of musicians who never learned theory, there's an equally long list of musicians that did, and they're not worse players. I know for a fact that Bill Evans knew more theory than Django Reinhardt. Did that make Bill Evans worse at improvising than Django? Obviously not. That said, Bill himself said this: I do not agree that the layman's opinion is less of a valid judgment of music than that of the professional musician. In fact, I would often rely more on the judgment of a sensitive layman than that of a professional, since the professional, because of his constant involvement with the mechanics of music, must fight to preserve the naivete that the layman already possesses. If you need to run a rehearsal, it's a shitload easier if you know all the names of chords and the symbols of functional harmony. But as they say in Zen, the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon itself. Theory points at the moon. The moon is something that has to be experienced directly.